Hey, just in time for the holidays, what if you didn't have to worry about any of that credit card debt? If you're feeling stuck making the minimum payments and you don't want to have to put Christmas on a credit card, we can help at SaveWithConrad.com. We routinely help our listeners save hundreds of dollars a month. Find out how much money you can save right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.
Welcome to Something to Wrestle with. Bruce Prichard. Well, you know.
That's not a rib.
She pooted.
What a rib.
No, yeah, but
There's no box of gimmicks.
Rumor and innuendo.
I don't deal in rumor and innuendo. And was he there? I was there. I don't give a shit. I ain't scared.
I ain't scared of shit.
Fuck him.
Fuck you, Bruce.
I love you.
Give me double cheeseburger, double cheese, double mayo, double onion, motherfucker.
Bruce Prichard. Hey, it's Conrad the Mortgage Guy, and you're listening to Something to Wrestle with John Layfield. John, what's going on, man? How are you?
Bradshaw 316 says, I just stole your fucking podcast.
I'm so fired up, man. We're getting a lot of great questions in from our listeners over the weekend. I took to Twitter and said, if you could ask JBL one thing, what would it be? So today's edition of Something to Wrestle, we're throwing you guys the keys. We're going to cover a whole host of topics. But before we do, we need to, pay a little homage, pay our respects to one of the greatest voices in the history of professional wrestling, no longer with us. John, did you ever have a chance to meet the late, great Bob Caudle?
Only got to meet him, which was a huge honor, like meeting Lance Russell. You know, I never got to meet Gordon Soley, I don't believe. I may have run into him one time. I can't remember what year he passed away. But, yeah, I got to meet him, and it was a tremendous honor. You know, it's kind of like when I got to meet Bullet Bob. You know, I saw him backstage, and, of course, I knew Scott and Brian real well, and Bullet Bob walks in, and he's just nice as he can be. And I was like, dude, this is a legend. And the same thing I thought of when I met Bob, you know, just like this guy's a freaking legend. And he is, you know, him and Bill Mercer, Lance Russell, Gordon Soley, those guys were just voices that you trusted, and they made professional wrestling, or certainly helped make it.
You want to talk about lending credibility, and that at different times is what I think a lot of pro wrestling broadcasters have tried to do to the circus that is professional wrestling on screen at times. And who better to lend their credibility than guys like Bob Caudle? You may not know this, but he first started calling wrestling studio wrestling in the 1950s in Georgia. He also hosted a children's program, and he even handled the weather. He had this calm demeanor and this smooth delivery, and I don't know, he just commanded respect with his mere presence. But I think what most of our listeners here today would best remember him for is not what he did in Georgia, but what he did in the Mid-Atlantic territory. You see him there if you're watching with us at somethingtowrestle.com with the world champion, the Nature Boy himself, Ric Flair. He was a staple along with David Crockett and all the other favorites, Johnny Weaver, and eventually, of course, Jim Ross, and Tony Schiavone. But just an iconic voice in professional wrestling. I have to admit, my first experience seeing him was in WCW in 1991 or 1990 rather. And then, of course, we know that he even went on to work with Jim Cornette and Smoky Mountain. He's from the Charlotte area and has just been a staple in that territory for so many years. People who went to Greg Price's NWA Fan Fest year after year at that University Hilton could always count on seeing Bob Caudle. I first learned of his passing over the weekend through the MidAtlanticGateway.com. Shout out to my buddies over there, Dick and Dave. But, John, I don't even know that you and I talked about this, but when I decided to do Ric Flair's last match, we wanted to sort of recreate some of the magic from Jim Crockett Promotions. So we recreated the set, and we had David Crockett and Tony Schiavone there, but I felt like the show would be incomplete without the voice of Bob Caudle. So as strange as it is, his last appearance in wrestling was associated with Ric Flair's last match, and I don't know, I think that's kind of fitting. I mean, even Rick took to Twitter to say that Bob helped him hone his interview styles. And when you think about what an iconic voice Ric Flair is and how legendary his promos have become, I think most young wrestlers aspire to be as good of a promo as Ric Flair. And when Rick took to Twitter to say, Bob Caudle helped me hone in my interview skills, is there a higher compliment in wrestling than that one from Ric Flair?
No, it's not, because that's what Rick took so close to his heart, was the promo skills, especially a lot of old guys that could really talk incredibly well. Now, Rick was a great wrestler as well, but the promo skills, I don't know, is he more famous for that or more famous for the, slam off the top rope that never worked except for the one time with Hunter when it finally worked? It was a great storyline. Guys love that, that the guys that could help them talk. And these old guys could do this. There was just something about them. Bill Mercer, and World Class Championship Wrestling, he was the one that told Lee Harvey Oswald that he was charged with the murder of the president back in,
wow.
He was, most of these guys were like this. They were legit in other areas, and then they bring them into wrestling, and somehow it adds the legitimacy too. It doesn't always work that way, but with these guys, it did. With Bob Caudle, it did. You had this reassuring presence, and when you sit there with these guys and you do these promos, a lot of them are not live. And that's when they really become helpful, because they'll tell you what they're going to tee you up with. Then they will tell you what you can say and how they're going to react, because they do promo after promo with hundreds of guys and girls a year. And so they have a really good knowledge of this. These are the first producers really in wrestling. Bob Caudle there's no doubt he helped no telling how many people, especially with what he knew best, and that was promos.
I hope that they start Monday Night Raw tonight with a little note from the announcers. Hello, wrestling fans. I think it would be a nice little tribute that they could do on AEW or TNA or WWE. I feel like Caudle always opened every episode the exact same way. Hello, wrestling fans. And I don't know, man. It's a shame. He lived such a great long life. He passed away at 95. So it's not like we can say we were robbed of any time. But you want some of these voices that we grew up on to live forever. And unfortunately, that won't happen for Mr. Caudle, as we know that Father Time does no jobs. But at 95 years old, it looks like maybe Bob Caudle took Father Time Broadway. I don't know what else there is to say about Mr. Caudle, but I sure do wish that everybody would go watch some old Mid-Atlantic or some old WCW and hear some of his work. And unfortunately, we've lost him now at 95 years old, but I'm hesitant to say goodbye because I hope we get to see him sometime in the future. At least for now, maybe it's most fitting if we say so long for now, Bob Caudle. John, let's do some questions here. We got
before we do, somebody else passed away that was a good friend of mine this past week. I think it's this past week, may have been a couple weeks ago. Greg Oliver gave me the note. We're going to talk about his mentor in our top 5 list coming up. But Silent Brian, Silent McInerney, who I told you had sent me this, which I'll explain again. Silent McInerney is, I got to get the right there with the mask on. He was out of Hamilton, Ontario. Really nice guy. He later went by Silent McInerney. He went by Silent Brian when I knew him. Tiger Jeet Singh was a little bit past his prime. In fact, this is his boy here, Jeet Singh Jr. This is the Korean poster. That's Lee Wan Pyo and a bunch of the guys that wrestled over there. So Silent Brian was over there, and I've told this many, many times. So it's on this show, where he would look at me and he'd point to me and he'd do the bullshit, 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 and then he'd scream at me. He'd do his horns and he'd like that. He'd yell at me. Something that me and Jericho have like an inside joke about still, because we got that from Silent Brian. But one day I was sitting out there. It was just me and him, and I had my rope and I had a lasso instead of my bull rope, and I thought, I wonder if I can rope him. And so I'm sitting there. So I started chasing him around the parking lot in Japan in the middle of the day. Can you imagine these two wrestlers chasing each other around the way? And I've got the rope and I'm trying to rope it. And I got him. I got his ass. And I tied him up, like a calf, with 2 legs and a hand all tied up. Thing. So when Greg Oliver told me about, hey, Silent Brian, I go, yeah, what a great guy. And he goes, I told him the story. I said, ask Brian if he remembers, which I knew he would. He not only went into his office, got this poster and laminated it. This is from Korea, and put on there, JBL, fuck you, Silent McInerney. I got it. I literally have had this thing hanging up in my office ever since. And just a solid dude. They don't know what happened. He passed away at home by himself. So they don't know what happened. He was around 70 years old, 60-something years old. He's a little bit older than us. So Anyway, I just want to give a shout out to Silent Brian, Silent Magny, however you know him. Really good dude that passed away as well.
Man, a little depressing start here to something to wrestle, but we're trying to put a brave face on, and let's have a little fun talking a little wrestling here.
Yeah, unfortunately, Chimmel, more bad news, Conrad, and I hate to bring this up. This is awful. This is the worst news you're going to hear all day. Chimmel's still alive. And I'm sorry, folks. I am so sorry to tell you that. Chimmel is alive and relatively healthy as Chimmel can be. And I'm sorry about that, guys. He may live a while longer. And that's terrible news, and I'm sorry to have to report that.
What a great fucking line. Ryan Purvis has a great question for us. He says, John, had the Von Erich men not passed away, what do you think they would have done in the 90s, and where do you think they would fit in today's business?
It was all dependent upon David, I believe. David was the guy that was kind of the heir apparent. David was kind of the businessman. Kevin was not. Kevin was a wrestler and a good one. Kevin's a good dude and a good friend of mine. Kerry was not. Kerry just wanted to be a wrestler. And God almighty, that guy, man, I say this all the time. I've been around The Rock. I've been fortunate enough to be around Schwarzenegger a little bit. Don't know him that well, but a little bit. He was Otto Vance's childhood buddy in Graz, so I had a little bit of connection to him. I mean, there are certain guys that walk into a room that are just freaking rock stars. I mean, Bruce Springsteen's like that. Kerry Von Erich was like that. He was alien. It was unreal to walk through an airport with him. But Kerry didn't really want to be part of the business part of it. David did. And if David hadn't passed away in Japan, I think things would have changed. Fritz didn't want to go national. They had a chance to do some pay-per-views, or closed circuits, rather. Fritz didn't understand it, didn't want to do it. David did. And so if David hadn't passed away, I think it was 84, 85, maybe 84, when he passed away in Japan, I think that the territory in Texas was the one that I thought actually had a better chance than the Carolinas and Florida, even with the great Eddie Graham down there, that I had a chance to take over because of what they were doing technology-wise. They were using so many different camera shoots. They had so much different backstage stuff. I mean, it was really good TV. And I think if David had stayed alive, it could have made a huge difference.
Where would David have fit in the Attitude Era?
As a heel. He was a good heel. He was one of the few boys that Fritz sent him down to Eddie Graham and the Briscoes and them to turn him heel, to make sure he knew how to work. You really don't know how to learn how to work until you work heel, as they say. And that's why they sent him down to work heel with Eddie Graham. Man, it made David 100% better. He was a hell of a worker, good talker, everything. I think he'd been a great heel. He'd have been a Texas heel. He would have been, if he had been the Attitude Era, I think he'd have been very similar to the Hart Foundation, except that it had been Texas that would have been the babyface only in Texas and a heel everywhere else, literally in the whole world.
Could you compare where a Kerry Von Erich would have fit in the Attitude Era? Like, would you have seen him on the WCW side of things, the WWF side of things? Like, is there a performer who you think, hey, the trajectory of this guy, we could have seen Kerry follow a similar path? Does that exist, a comparable?
Yeah, I think so. He was good friends with the Dingo Warrior who became the Ultimate Warrior, and I think Kerry was a better worker. I know Kerry was. Kerry was a lot better worker. Especially if Kerry hadn't lost his foot in that motorcycle accident. We're assuming that the what if these guys, these young boys who were men at the time, staying healthy. And Kerry was a lot better worker than Ultimate Warrior. A lot better. That guy had unbelievable charisma. So the Warrior had great charisma, but not as good a worker. I don't think Kerry would have done well in WCW at all. I think he was a WWE guy 100%. Vince would have loved to have an athlete. He was a 6'4" high jumper in high school. Kerry would have been great in WWE under Vince McMahon.
I'm curious why you think that he wouldn't have been a fit in WCW. What was it about WCW style that you don't think really worked for Kerry?
I don't think they knew what to do with him. Same as they didn't know how to do with Warrior. Now, they got a Warrior that was older and not the same Warrior that, from WrestleMania 6, obviously, to be fair to those guys. But they didn't know what to do with him with an attraction like that. I didn't feel like they know what to do with attractions, with a Stan Hansen, with an Abdullah, with a Warrior, with Kerry was a little bit more than an attraction, but kind of the same mold. I just didn't think they knew what to do with him. I mean, this is the guy on the verge of a Rock status. Not as good a promo as Rock. Rock, I think, a brilliant human being, obviously, that's shown throughout the years. But I think Vince knew what to do with these guys so much more than WCW. They knew what to do with wrestlers and with good wrestlers, and they did a great job with it. But I don't think they knew as much to do with characters as they did. I mean, you look at Goldberg. They did a great job with Goldberg, making Goldberg this huge star, and they kept him very simple. This spear, jackhammer, you're next. That was it. They didn't do a good job expanding his character beyond that. And you can argue, maybe Vince McMahon didn't either later, but that was also later.
I do want to ask, when we're thinking about Kerry Von Erich in the WWF, and I don't know a way to ask this without sounding like an asshole, so forgive me if I do. Could he have survived the new generation era when steroid testing was so prevalent? Like, he had a body of a Greek god, and I don't want to accuse him of taking performance enhancing drugs, but I think most people would say from an eye test that may have been a challenge for him. But I do love the idea of Kerry Von Erich wrestling guys like Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart or Razor Ramon or Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash. Like, that era feels like he could have thrived and done really, really well with that. But would he have been able to, I don't know. Is it fair for me to just make the assumption that he was probably using steroids? It feels like it's not off base.
No, I think it's fair. I think it's pretty much certainty. I don't know if Kerry ever talked to me about that specifically. I mean, all the guys when I was in Texas, when Kerry was there, were taking, the guys that had a little bit of body there were hookups everywhere, Conrad. I mean, back then you'd get them from a pharmacy, you get them legal, you can get them from your gym. I mean, guys had them everywhere. Guys give you just price sheets at the gym. That's how, it's almost like weed now. The police didn't really care about it. So, you had price sheets literally in gyms that would circulate for steroids. And because nobody knew, how bad they were. And they just knew that you build big muscles. So I think it's fair to say I don't have 100% definitive proof that Kerry took them, but I would certainly place a large wager on it. I think Kerry's problems was not the steroids; it was the other stuff that was circulating. That's what he got in trouble with. It was Kerry had addiction issues, and so the culture would have got him. And I don't think it was the steroids. I think it was other stuff. Now, testing for steroids, Kerry was a hell of an athlete. You look at him when he was younger. You look at Kevin when he was younger. I don't know if Kevin took him or not. None of my damn business, and I don't care. But you look at these guys had great bodies, terrific bodies. That's with or without steroids. If steroids enhance it, they don't give it to you. And I think Kerry would have been fine without them.
It is interesting to think about, hypothetically, if it would have happened. You've got Kerry Von Erich, the Texas Tornado, and we know the boyhood dream is going to come true for Shawn Michaels in '96. But wouldn't Kerry have been an interesting opponent for a Bret Hart championed WWF for a pay-per-view, or even for that matter, Shawn Michaels do something with that Texas affiliation? Like, it does feel like there could have been something that would have been really fun in 94, 95, 96. But a year later, when Stone Cold gets hot, I mean, you want to talk about two antithetical personas in wrestling that epitomize Texas wrestling of that era. The Texas Tornado and the Texas Rattlesnake. Come on. Like, there's a lot of opportunity there, it feels like.
Yeah, and Kerry could sell. I mean, for being a big guy, Kerry could really freaking sell. He loved selling, and he put heels over like freaking $1 million, man. I mean, him to put over Stone Cold when Steve was a heel, oh my God, what matches they could have. And that big son bitch fighting back from underneath. I mean, that could be, brother, that would be legendary stuff right there. Vince believed that he needed Kerry to break into Texas because a lot of these old territories, we didn't do very well in these old territories. We go into Minnesota, we wouldn't do well because people were used to watching AWA. We go into Memphis, a lot of times we didn't do very well because people were used to watching Jerry Lawler. Same in Dallas. We weren't drawing many people there until, Steve and Rock got hot. Same in San Antonio with Joe Blanchard. I mean, we didn't do well in a lot of territories. Vince thought he needed Kerry, and that's one of the big reasons there was a push to get Kerry because Vince wanted Texas.
Well, I'll tell you what, we know that if Kerry would have been a part of that new generation when all the steroid stuff was going on, he may be looking for a different solution. And maybe you are too, which is why we're proud to talk about Mars Men here today. I know that John has been looking for, and we're going to get into this a little later, John has been looking for a solution to feel like the old John. And if you're looking to do the same, I want to recommend Mars Men. We're such a big believer in this product. I mean, here's the reality. We all, as guys, start to feel changes in our body. Maybe it happens around 35 or so. But if you're between the ages of 35 and 45, I guarantee that you felt it. You know, everything that you used to do that felt easy all of a sudden doesn't feel easy. And we barely ever talk about it as guys, but a lot of us feel like we hit a brick wall in our mid-30s. We could be doing the same workouts or have the same diet, but it feels like you're sort of moving through mud. Well, nobody really talks about this stuff. You know, one day you're crushing it. Next day you're wondering why everything feels twice as hard. But here's the reality. People don't really talk about this, but most men start losing testosterone around the age 30, about 1% every year after that. And here's what I've learned about Mars Men. Your body makes testosterone, but a lot of it gets locked up and it can't be used. And that's because there's this protein called SHBG that basically handcuffs your testosterone. So even if your body's making testosterone, SHBG locks it up so you can't access it. It's like having money in the bank, but your debit card doesn't work. Well, Mars Men is designed to help you free that locked testosterone so your body can actually use it. To be clear, there's no synthetics here. There's no needles, just real ingredients that help optimize energy, focus, and strength. You're going to notice stronger physical performance. You're going to notice better recovery in the gym. You're going to be more consistent, and you're going to have more natural energy. You see, this is not like drinking a cup of coffee. This is a steadier sense of drive throughout the day, and that's what it takes to make you successful at the office, at home, at the gym, wherever. Either way, Mars Men is going to help you support healthy T levels, energy, and stamina. And it all comes from 8 natural, clinically closed ingredients. It's made right here in the USA, and it's third-party tested. But check this out. It's got a 90-day money-back guarantee. We're talking no risk. Worst case, you don't absolutely love it, and you get your money back. But over 91% of users report higher energy levels. Thousands of guys are feeling incredible results. Just check out the reviews on the website and see for yourself. And for a limited time, our listeners can get 60% off for life and 3 free gifts when you use the code WRESTLE at mengotomars.com. That's mengotomars.com and use the code WRESTLE at checkout. After you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Hey, John, you know, I want to ask.
I'm sorry to point out also that I just checked. Chimmel is still alive, folks. Day's young. Sorry.
Well, I don't know if it's too early for us to talk about this, but I know you've been saying you've been training, and we just talked about Mars Men, and I know I know you went to mengotomars.com. I know you used the promo code WRESTLE. I know you're feeling like your old self again.
Yep.
But there's rumor and innuendo that you have a training video where you're starting to move around and you've leaned on your coaches. And we've talked about this before, but your coaches, as I understand it, are supposed to be Jerry Briscoe and Jody Malenko. Do I have that right, John?
100%, yeah. Former NWA junior champion, the number one trainer of number one student of Carl Gotch, Jody Malenko, one of the greatest legends in MMA. Yeah, they're my coaches and my good friends. I'm so happy to have them as my coaches. They set me up with a whole training facility in my garage with a wrestling mat, a suplex dummy I call Bruce, some Persian clubs, you know, the not the great big ones, the iron ones, and all kinds of things. Yes.
Well, I know that you have you've sent that video off to these guys for them to break down, and I don't know why. I know that we've all been on a group thread. Mm-hmm. And if I'm honest with you, I'm not even sure exactly why I'm on the group thread because they're your coaches. But somehow, accidentally, I'm not sure this is what Mr. Briscoe meant to do. But if you've ever watched stories with Briscoe and Bradshaw, you know for sure that occasionally it's revealed that Mr. Briscoe is technologically challenged. Would that be fair to say, John?
Fair to say. That Luddite still got a rotary dial phone. He tries to get on Zoom with a rotary dial phone every week.
I mean, I know there was one week he brought like 10 cans and string. I don't know, but somehow he thought he was leaving a voicemail for Jody Malenko, but he left a voicemail on my phone.
You're kidding me.
So he refers to me over and over in the voicemail as Jody. And so I thought it might be a prudent time just to, let's poke the bear and have a little fun at Mr. Briscoe's experience. But B, I know you're looking for feedback from your coaches, and I feel bad because I got the feedback. You didn't get the feedback. So why don't we show fans what you've been up to, and we'll sort of, I think Silva's got it put together with Briscoe's voicemail. So we can take a look at how John's training for his comeback is going. And here's some inspirational words, if you will, from Jerry Briscoe. Let's take a listen.
Cool.
Hey, Jody, man, I just got that video. Man, I'm so sorry. I've watched that thing over and over again, and I'm just sick. And I apologize. Man, I don't want to do anything that's going to ruin your reputation over in Japan. You're a worldwide trainer. But, man, this is going to be a challenge. I just don't think the guy's up to it. You know, he is a Texan, so we just got to – I don't know, Jody. I mean, it's not too late to back out.
That's good. That's good. You know what's great about that, Conrad? It sounds just like him.
What do you mean?
This AI stuff is awesome. I love it. That's so good. That's my pal, Mr. Briscoe. Sounds just like him.
John, that's not AI. I mean, we just said Briscoe can't figure out webcams. You think he knows how to do AI?
So Jerry didn't like. Oh, stop it! Stop it! Oh, Jerry's my friend. Jerry's my good buddy. He'd never say that. That's a misunderstanding. Those words are taken out of context. That's what they call fake news. Jerry's my dear friend. Jody's my dear friend. Those guys love what I'm doing. Mr. Briscoe's always put me over. He signed me back in 1995 and been my biggest supporter. Oh yeah, no, that's no big deal.
Okay, let's do another question. This comes to us from James Sorensen. And he wants to know, if you had been given John Cena for the company's Secret Santa, what would you have gotten him? That's interesting.
That's a hell of a question. I love that question. That's great. I would give him some type of like exotic booze. You know, John, I've told the story last week, out there week before about John, becoming a guy that has this master tolerance for booze. But, John's like a regular guy. John likes moonshine and stuff, or Schlitz or Pabst or whatever it is. John's just a regular dude. I would find some like crazy vodka or some crazy, probably not wine. Most boys aren't wine drinkers. Or some tequila or something and get him some type of real exotic, probably expensive bottle of booze or something that you can kind of leave on your top shelf and open up when you feel good or your team wins a big championship or something like that.
Did John have a favorite? I know you said that he would drink moonshine or whatever, but was there one like I've heard, and I don't know if this is true, but I've heard through the grapevine, did Vince used to drink Dewar's White Label? Is that right?
Yeah, sure did. Vince had a higher gimmick up there, but he also drank a lot of Dewar's. But he also had a higher quality bottle too. He had a bunch of stuff. I'll tell you a funny story. One time I get on the plane with Vince and I got a bag, I got a brown bag. It's literally a brown bag. Vince, good. Vince, that baritone voice. What do you got in that bag? I said, Coors Light. He goes, why are you bringing beer on my plane? And I said, because you don't have any fucking Coors Light. He said, I don't. I said, no. Vince wasn't a beer drinker. And he said, from now on, we have Coors Light, stock the fridge. So from that point forward, they had Coors Light on the fridge because I got caught sneaking a six-pack on in a brown paper bag on his plane. I'm going on to a plane with a billionaire, and I've got this private plane I'm getting on, and I'm sneaking on a bag full of Coors Light in a brown bag. Yeah, Vince liked Dewar's, and John Cena, I think, was a PBR guy, I believe.
Okay. All right.
Which, I mean, that beer's – when we used to round up cattle when I was a kid, we used to have like PBR and Schlitz because it was so cheap. We had Keystone back then, if you remember Keystone, like a rip-off Coors Light. But they were like – it's like $1 for a case. All the Cowboys had it. But, man, I didn't like that PBR. But John would drink the PBR. I don't know if he liked it or it was just cool to drink PBR. I assume he liked it because John's not a poser.
I'm fascinated by the plane conversation because I've heard guys like Eric Bischoff talk about how, the plane on the ride home after a big show, because that's where everybody's flying in on the plane and it's all business and we're focused. But afterwards, people can let their hair down and relax a little bit. So I want to talk a little bit about the plane, because Eric has said, I mean, I've heard him tell stories that he said, hey, I'm sure there were more than one time when I ate like $600 worth of sushi. What can you tell us about food and drink on the plane afterwards? What were some of the things that stood out?
If you wanted something, you could get it. I mean, if you wanted like whatever it was, they had like sushi and sashimi, all that stuff. I'm not a big fan of that stuff, so I never ate it. Now I did drink a lot, but Vince had whatever. Like when he caught me sneaking on the Coors Light bag of brown bag with a 6-pack in it, he had Coors Light from that point forward. Vince was the ultimate host. Vince loved people to have a good time, and when the show was really good, Vince was in a good mood. He would crank AC/DC so loud you couldn't hear yourself think. It was so freaking loud. That plane had to be rocking in the sky. The music was so freaking loud. It was awesome. And Vince would be dancing up and down the aisle. I mean, it was a rolling party. It was a lot of fun. And it's always going back. Of course, going forward, going there, it's always to work. Coming back, it's over. And even when the show was bad, Vince could compartmentalize anything. We could have a bad show, and Vince would, the guys get on kind of depressed about it. Vince, there's always next week. And on goes AC/DC, and here comes the booze, and we're having fun rocking through the sky.
Hey, I wanted to ask about that, because I've heard some people say that after the show, Vince has these weird rules like, hey, you shouldn't, nobody falls asleep. Like everybody's kind of scared to fall asleep. And other people would say, oh, no, that's not true. I fell asleep every time. And then other people I've heard say, people were kind of minding their P's and Q's after a show. Vince would be looking over notes or making notes, but he would always have like the glasses hanging off the edge of his nose. But it sounds like the way you just described it, Vince dancing down the aisles, that was for a regular show or a bad show, but him celebrating is for a great show. Was his demeanor different based on, how the show went? What can you talk to us about there?
Yeah, it was. But Vince, now he compartmentalized stuff really well. He could get really bad news and you would never know it. Vince was really good about that. He didn't sell nothing. We could have a bad show, we could have bad attendance, and Vince could get on a plane, and it is almost like he went completely out of his way to not sell it. Vince was very, very big on that. Now, on the other side, also Conrad, he didn't sell when things were just over the top great either. He carried that kind of middle of the road demeanor. It's kind of like Tom Landry on the sideline. I remember Coach Landry for the Cowboys. He never reacted either good or bad, really, to plays, because he was always thinking, he always wanted to be one step ahead. Vince didn't want to let people too much into him. He didn't want to sell. And so there was not a lot of selling going on if the show was bad or if the show was overly good. Now, when he was in a good mood, most of the time it was, like I guess probably it corresponded more with a big show or something. We'd have a crazy party. And there were times it was the whole thing was working. He had the glass on the end of his nose and he wanted to go over some stuff. He had things coming up. He would sit there and want to talk business. And sometimes he'd gather, the front part of the plane had 4 captain seats in it. He always sat in the one that was facing the cockpit. Kevin Dunn sat caddy corner across there, and then the 2 people would fill in the other. And specifically with guys that Vince really wanted to talk to on the flight. Or if it was a guest. If it was a Stone Cold or a Hogan or something, Vince would want them sitting up front with him. I remember when Jimmy Garvin got on the plane one time, he had Jimmy Garvin up there because he just wanted to hear the old Freebird stories. They told the funniest story about doing a little blow behind the Crockett's plane, and as they go to hit it, the plane kicked on with the jets and blew the cocaine all the way down the runway. It was just, I bet he told it 4 times on that flight. It was awesome. But Vince just loved to have a good time. But when he wanted to work, he also worked. But a lot of times, Conrad, Vince would land, and we'd have a rolling party or whatever we had, or a work, whatever it was. And then Vince would sit there and work with Kevin Dunn for another couple hours sometime, right there on the tarmac. Everybody else would get off the plane. As far as going to sleep, Vince loved to mess with Kerwin. He loved Kerwin. Kerwin's one of his first hires out of the Harrisburg area. Not sure exactly where it was, there in northeastern Pennsylvania. But he loved to mess with Kerwin when he was asleep. But it really wasn't mean spirited. He would just kind of poke him, and But guys fall asleep, especially that Vince didn't know very well. 0 happened to him. It wasn't a big deal.
I know that you said that he wanted to be a gracious host, but I'm sure he's had some interesting guys on that plane. Maybe guys like Michael Hayes. I also know that you're not a stooge, but I'm trying to get to, is there a funny story you can share that maybe won't piss anybody off. Because you mentioned when you said that you like Coors Light from that point on, there was Coors Light there. Was there ever a weird request that Vince was like, my God, I can't believe? Because Bruce has told us before, way back pre-Jet days of the WWF, that he and Pat Patterson and Vince McMahon stopped at like a rest station, a gas station, and they served corn dogs. And Bruce was all excited to get a corn dog, and Vince had no idea what a corn dog was and couldn't believe that Bruce was eating it, saying something like, "You put that in your body?" Do you remember there being a weird request that Vince was really off put by?
No, I don't, because guys would hide stuff from Vince because they knew not to eat like shit in front of him, like candy and stuff like that. Because Vince would probably say something about it, so guys would kayfabe candy, like probably back, and probably what it was like the older generation was like, hey, we used to hide drugs, and you guys are now hiding candy. So they probably said the same thing about us as we say about these guys. I'll tell you a funny story. Michael Cole, you judge it's funny. I used to love when people would tell Vince, because I was around Vince a lot. They come to Vince, I got an idea you're going to love. And Vince would look at him and go, I'll be the judge of that. And just sit there and nod. Fuck, that's the greatest answer ever. So I want to tell you a funny story. You'll be the judge of that, Conrad. So they're flying down. I can't remember where. I'm going to say Florida. I can't remember where. I'm going to get it wrong no matter what I do. Anyway, they're flying somewhere. And this was before Vince had the big plane with the bathroom in the back. If you remember, like some of these private planes, you had the bathroom underneath a seat. So the only way to go was like to pull the seat up, and you're in the main area there. Michael Cole has to go to the bathroom before they land. You got Linda is in that seat. Linda McMahon, Secretary of Education, is in that seat. So Michael is like, oh my God, I may just, he's like debating at this point. Should I just piss on myself? Because whatever I do from this point forward is going to be the most embarrassing moment of my life. And so finally, Michael Cole sits there and he goes, Vince, I got to go. And Vince's like, damn, we'll land in 30 minutes. You can wait. I got to go. Michael has Linda get up. And in front of the whole plane, Michael has to get down on his knees and use the bathroom with that little toilet that's on the private plane before the thing. And Vince was like, you're kidding me. You're not going to do this. And Michael goes, you don't know pain. And to this day, they rib Michael Cole about saying, you don't know pain, because you're on there with all these boys and like broken bones everywhere. And Michael's got to pee and he says, you don't know pain. So yeah, Michael went to the bathroom in front of everybody, and it took him, to this day, he may not have lived it down. Michael will tell you the story. It's hilarious.
Well, I almost feel like there's a guy out there listening to this podcast right now, sitting on a big old crusty brick that he calls a wallet. He doesn't know pain. We're talking about pain relief in the form of Ridge. Get rid of the giant crusty leather brick that's going to mess up your spine alignment. I bet your damn lower back is hurting from that big old brick all day. You're sitting unevenly. What you need is something from Ridge. They've got unique, slim, modern wallets, and it'll be the last wallet you ever need. But what they've done is they've spent, and I can't believe this is real, years doing research and development. That's right, R&D, to get the absolute best version of the Ridge. It's called the Ridge 2.0. They've been perfecting this wallet for like 12 years. It's lighter than ever, and it's more improved with modular improvements like cash straps, money clips, and even AirTag attachments. I'm a big fan of this. I've got one in carbon fiber. You can also get them in aluminum or titanium. Whatever you're looking for, Ridge has it. Yeah, the new Ridge wallets hold up to 12 cards plus your cash, and they've got something for everybody, especially right here with the holidays around. If you've got a guy in your life who's hard to buy for, I want you to know that Ridge has a deal so they can do this with every NFL team, every MLB team, every college team. This is just in time for that hard-to-buy guy in your life. Plus, all of the Ridge wallets have a built-for-life warranty, meaning if your wallet is lost or even stolen, they've got you covered. When we say this is the last wallet you'll ever need, we mean it. And they've planned for the future. All the Ridge wallets actually have RFID blocking technology that's going to keep you safe from digital pickpocketers. And don't just take my word for it. I want you to know that Ridge has over 100,000 five-star reviews. That's proof that Ridge is a gift that people love to receive. And Ridge is a lot more than just wallets. They've got all your premium everyday carry essentials. I'm talking things like key cases, even suitcases. And they've even got game-changing power banks, all with the same sleek, durable design. Is perfect for every guy. And how about this? Losing your wallet's the worst, but with the Ridge Tracker card, you'll always know exactly where it is, but long before panic mode kicks in. This is perfect for that guy in your life who's hard to buy, but he wants the peace of mind, especially with all this holiday travel coming up. Maybe you need one too. For a limited time, Ridge is having a huge Black Friday sale. Head on over to ridge.com. That's RIDGE.com. And go ahead and get 47% off your order. That's right. This is by far the biggest discount they've given all year at ridge.com. You'll get up to 40% off. No, even more than that, up to 47% off. Damn, this really is their biggest sale of the year. After you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Man, can you imagine back in the day if these old timers would have had a Ridge wallet? I remember seeing a photo of the brick that Harley Race used to carry around. Man, Ridge's guy, it would have been a game changer.
Ridge is awesome. I got a Ridge wallet because they're a sponsor. I'm so glad I did. It's very functional and incredible to use.
Let's talk about the old aftermags here. We've got a question from Terrell Lewis who says, how did yourself and other performers, aka the boys, feel about the aftermags? And what did you think about the PWI 500? So we'll save the PWI 500 for part 2 of this. Did you grow up reading the aftermags? And once you were in the business, did you appreciate their approach or did it annoy you? Like, 2-part question there. Were you a fan growing up, and did your perception of the magazines change once you were, quote unquote, in the business?
Huge fan growing up. 100%. Love the aftermags. I used to go to the store all the time. There was a Skinny's that was right down the street from where I lived in Sweetwater. Skinny's is a convenience store for those who don't know, down in the South. And go down there and I'd look through the mags, without buying them. I'd sit there and, they run the kids off because they all did that, But I go look through them. And it was so cool about it because I didn't know a lot of the wrestlers. I only knew the wrestlers from Texas because that's all the TV we got. And so it was so cool to read about all these guys that were all over the world. I didn't know where they were. I mean, New York could have been freaking in Bangladesh for all I knew. I didn't know. I'd never been out of the state of Texas. So yeah, it was awesome reading the aftermags. They were so good. The pictures were so good. And yes, absolutely loved reading them.
Now let's talk about the PWI 500. When that first comes out, is it on your radar? What do the guys think of it? Does anyone take it seriously back then? I know there's always an online discourse with fans, but I'm curious, how did the guys within the business perceive that PWI 500, John?
To my knowledge, no one I knew took it serious. I mean, no one, none of the boys. We just assumed that the mags were all a work, and I think they were their promotion. And they were using the PWI to give guys promotion for different things. They put a guy number 1 because they wanted to promote that guy for whatever reason. That's what we felt. It's a better question for Bill Apter is the reasoning behind it. Was it supposed to be legit or not? But being in the top 10, I thought it was always a reason to do that, a working reason. So I don't think any of the guys were, man, I'm 63rd. I'm pissed off. I don't know anybody that would have felt that way. Maybe Animal. But Animal kept up his win-loss record, but I don't know many other people that would. I'm sure there were a few, Conrad, that were upset about the ranking. I didn't know anybody that was, and I didn't know anybody who talked about it. We just thought it was for the fans.
Let's do another one here from a wrestling historian. Is there a prank that you regret pulling on a coworker? We all love hearing about the ribs, but sometimes ribs can go wrong and it's not as fun as we hoped. And maybe there's some feelings hurt. Is there one that you look back and say, wish I had that one to do over again?
Yeah, I've told you this before. There was a big sumo boy that in Japan, and we went to Korea to wrestle. And, we were sitting there drinking one night, and he was a good young guy. You don't rib people you don't like. You rib people you like, And so we super glued him in his room, and it's easy to do. I don't know if I'm sure I know what people are talking about. There's always a little space in the door. So you push the door back a little bit, put super glue in it, and then pull the handle, and it'll bind, and you're literally super glue a guy into his room. And so we super glued him into his room. We didn't know he was claustrophobic. That big son of a bitch got so scared, he sumoed the door, knocked the whole damn door frame out. I mean, that's a powerful kid. We're sitting there looking at it. Of course, we had to pay for it, and like, which sucked. We didn't have any money. And like, this sucks. What a terrible rib this was. And plus, then we're thinking, hope he doesn't find out it's us. He can knock a door frame out. That boy might sumo us. And so, but he did get me back. He found out it was me. And this is one of the best ribs ever pulled on me, Conrad. I applaud him so much for this. So I'm sitting there. I'm going back from Korea. My stomach was messed up because I've been eating Korean food. And I'm not used to it. So my stomach's messed up. Halfway on the flight back, it's not a short flight back from Seoul back to Tokyo. I got to go to the bathroom. So I squeeze into this little airplane bathroom. I get in there, got to finally get my pants down. I'm 300 something pounds. I'm my pants down. I'm every part of the wall's touching me. And I'm sitting like this. And that big boy found out that I was in there, and he sumoed that damn door and knocked it off its hinges. So I'm stuck in there like a bear stuck in a garbage can, and I'm sitting there. I can't even move. I can't even get out. My pants are down. And I look up, and there's about 30 people there that can see me. So I'm sitting there taking the dump, Conrad, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking, and I'm stuck in there, got my pants down. I got to pull my pants up and everything. And these people are just like sitting there looking at me like, what's the big American doing stuck in the bathroom, and why is the door off the hinges? So yeah, there was a rib I regretted. I regretted the shit out of that.
I love that story.
Oh yeah, I give him huge kudos for that. He got over big with me by doing that to me.
Carl Hayes, friend of the program, wants to know, what's your favorite winning bet and what was the biggest heartbreaking bet? That's a fun question.
Yeah. I had a bet this weekend. It was a rugby game, and it was the over, I think it was. And all they had to do was kick the 2-point conversion, and somehow the clock ran out. Somebody ran on the field, and they didn't allow them to kick the 2-point conversion. And to this second, I don't know why the bet was won. I win the bet in the very last seconds of the game. All the guys got to do is kick the 2-point conversion, and for some reason they didn't let him kick it. And I don't have the sound. I'm like, what the fuck? I just lost money because there's some crazy fan around on the field or something. So yeah, it was one of these bad beats that SVP talks about all the time. I've also had just the opposite in several games where a fumble happens, and that's the best thing in the world. It sucks when it happens the other way. Basketball is the worst, by the way, because all of a sudden you get down there and somebody throws up a 3-pointer from half court, and it affects the over-under or the spread. That's the absolute worst, but that's gambling.
I got to do a question here from Patrick Ruth, and what a great question this is. My favorite APA skit was Royal Rumble 2001. What was your favorite memory of it? Now, I don't know if you recall this, but you and Ron were backstage playing poker. You're comparing numbers for what you drew for the Royal Rumble, and in comes Crash Holly, who has to apologize to both of you in advance that he's going to have to throw you both out of the Royal Rumble. So great skit. Love the idea. What do you remember about that one?
Crash was great. I loved Crash. Really nice guy. And we had a lot of fun working with Crash. Crash was fun. He was a perfect foil for us. So was Funaki and Taka. The young guys that, had, great banter about them, with the big, supposed tough guys and stuff. It was just a great dynamic to work with. I loved working with Crash. We got to do so much. We had Rebecca Romaine on with LL Cool J and Chris Klein, and they were promoting a movie. And Miss Romaine was going to down a beer for part of the skit. And I said, Rebecca, I will get you a beer that has water in it, gimmick beer. She goes, oh, I'm fine. It's okay. So we did this thing. We're doing it before the show so we can edit it. And it's got screwed up. It got screwed up probably 3 to 5 times. She downs 3 to 5 beers. He downs them. I mean, like freaking Dick the Bruiser. She's like, bam, pounding them. I tell Ron, I goes, that's the greatest woman on the planet. I love her. We had a lot of fun with the APA. We had a lot of fun with guys coming in. We just enjoyed, putting guys over and having fun with them. Guys were great to us. Undertaker, Rock, Booker T. Some of these guys would come in and put over the whole skit. That's what made it, because guys put it over for us.
Kylan Furlow, he's asking a question that I think we've answered before, but I guess people haven't heard the answer. Did you ever meet or talk to Larry Hagman, since your character was based on J.R. Ewing?
No, I'd love to have met him. Would love to have. And I want to point this out, though. I always thought my character was based off Larry Hagman. I've heard Vince be asked about it, and he thought that was preposterous. Vince had my inspiration was Larry Hagman. Vince did not see it that way at all. But we did do a scene at South Fork one time, and I got to work with Governor Rick Perry there, who, by the way, was fantastic. Rick Perry came up, and Rick Perry's the governor of the state of Texas, and literally they go, hey, John's going to do something with you. He goes, hey, I'm so sorry. I've been going around. They gave him like 5 or 6 bullet points in about 10 seconds. He walked up like he had known me since Sweetwater High School and grew up with me, and hit all 5 or 6 bullet points in a row. Just like it was not scripted, nothing. It was really remarkable. That was all at South Fork. But no, I got to do something at South Fork Ranch. I was supposed to do something with Larry Hagman one time, but I never got to do it. And I would love to have, because he was, I loved that character. By the way, he always wore a hat when he went through airports because he wanted people to see him as J.R. Ewing.
He did it on purpose.
100%. Yeah. He was not a cowboy, but he'd wear a hat because people wanted to see him as J.R. Ewing. He dressed as J.R. Ewing to go through airports. Essentially, it's staying in the gimmick.
What a great story. I did not know that.
Yeah. He was very big about letting people see him as J.R. Ewing.
I feel like that's just leaning into the nostalgia, and that's probably what everybody listening to this podcast is doing as well. And if you're a fan of the 80s or 90s, or you long for the good old days, do you still too sweet every stranger wearing an NWO shirt? Then check out the new nostalgia podcast called Be Kind, Let's Rewind. Join 3 lifelong friends where they discuss television, movies, music, and pop culture from the 80s, 90s, and beyond. They've covered topics ranging from personalities like the Macho Man Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan to movies like Predator and Happy Gilmore. They've also got live interviews with authors like Dr. Brad, who we have absolutely loved his books, John Finkel. And how about the Batman executive producer, Michael Uslan? Yeah, they're all here as a part of Be Kind, Let's Rewind. Be sure to check out John and Brad's books, Macho Man Untamed, The Unbelievable Life of Randy Savage, and The Six Pack, An Open Road in Search of WrestleMania. Join Be Kind, Let's Rewind for boozy segments like Booze of the Week, Shit Stuck in My Head This Week, and the now infamous Pizza Gorilla, and of course, the Norm Macdonald Clip of the Week. New episodes air every Friday on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, and all the major podcasting platforms. Be sure to use their YouTube page at Be Kind, Let's Rewind, and you can engage with the show on Instagram, X, and even Discord. If you love the 80s and 90s nostalgia, this show is for you. Check it out. Be Kind, Let's Rewind. Be kind is something we should tell Dave McClay, because he's got a question here, or maybe it's a comment that I can't believe, but I think you'll love it. Dave says, I don't really have a question. I just wanted to tell you that Something to Wrestle was my very favorite podcast, but then a few years ago, it turned into my 5th favorite. But when you took over, it is now my favorite podcast again. Thank you, JBL. I'm okay with you being the new permanent host. Let Bruce just go do his thing.
Dave, you're the fucking best. When we get the shirt, we need to send you one. Bradshaw 316 says, I just stole your fucking podcast. Yeah. Dave, you're awesome.
Ron for Your Life says, one of my favorite finishes of all time was JBL and the Big Show in a cage match at No Way Out 2005. JBL gets chokeslammed from the top rope through the ring. Big Show escapes the cage, and the ref calls for the bell. The ring announcer says, and your winner and still undisputed champion, John Bradshaw Layfield. A confused Big Show and a pissed off audience come to find out that JBL had escaped the cage from under the ring that he had been chokeslammed through before Big Show escaped the cage. It was absolute brilliance. My question is, John, who came up with this masterpiece finish? And do you recall your reaction to the idea when it was first pitched?
Yeah, I remember talking to Vince about it probably 2 or 3 months before we did it, and I can't remember if Vince came up with it or it was just a matter of talking back and forth. I think Vince came up with it. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong about that, but I remember talking to him about 2 or 3 months before because we had to build this, and so we kept it secret for quite a long time. And man, I thought it was just fantastic. In fact, but a lot of stories about it. When they first built it, Ellis built our gimmicks back then, our props. They had a small little door for me to go through. Man, I'm coming off the top rope. We've only been wrestling for 20 or 30 minutes at this point. And, Big Show's got to put me there. And I'll talk about that in a minute. That's one of the most safe guys in the history of the business is Big Show. There was so much room for error with that little small trap door. And I looked at it. Vince says, why can't you double it? And Ellis goes, well, I guess we could. I'm like, fuck, you think? Yeah, otherwise I'm going to die. So they built the trap door in the corner. And if you watch it, we walked right over the trap door before, so it certainly didn't give it away. The problem, though, is, everything around it gets really stiff, because you got to reinforce the rest of the ring. So the rest of the ring is, people hate that when you had to gimmick the ring, because the rest of the ring was, it was hard. And so we walked over it, and the guy underneath the ring was the one that let the trap door out. So the night before in Pittsburgh, we wanted to go over the stunt. So it's about 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night. And so we go up there and said, well, we need to make sure this stunt works. So I go up to the top rope, and Kevin Nunn's in the truck, and they're filming it, to make sure you get the right angles and stuff. And all of a sudden, Big Show's on the top rope. I'm on the top rope. Big Show's going to give me the move the night before. And all of a sudden you hear, stop, stop, stop. And it's Kevin Dunn. And he says, guys, if John gets hurt, we got no match tomorrow. We can't let him take the risk of going through the ring tonight, because there's a good chance he could get hurt. There's a lot of things can go wrong with this. I mean, Big Show's throwing a 280-pound man, from whatever, 8 feet, 10 feet, whatever it is in the air, 20 feet in the air, as they say in wrestling, through this spot. He has to hit me just perfect, or I'm screwed. And he did, by the way. That man, I wouldn't trust, few people in the world I would trust more than Big Show because of that. So we didn't know what to do. So Ellis was right there. And so they said, hey, Ellis, you want to do it? And Ellis wouldn't do his own stunt. Now think how confident I am. And Ellis goes, well, no, I'm not the same size. I'm going, Ellis, am I going to be okay? Ellis looks at me. He goes, I think you'll probably be all right. And I said, you know how many caveats are in that? I'm going to chance I'm going to spend the night in the Pittsburgh ER. So Finley was the agent of the match. Finley had been at the bar. He's in a shirt and a tie because he'd been at a show that night. He comes up to do the thing. He'd been over having some drinks. Finley gets up there at midnight in a suit and goes through the ring. It was awesome. I wish we could find the video of that. That was one of the best parts of the night, of the weekend, was Finley going through the ring. He just climbed up there. Big Show picks Finley up over his head and throws him suit and all, and a bunch of pints of Guinness in him through the ring. And so when we did the match, Big Show did such a good job, man. He is such a talented guy in so many different ways, but he's also very safe and he was a legit giant. When he went to take that last step down, I put my hand out underneath the ring. So when I go underneath through the ring, they have a monitor for me. So I'm watching Big Show live, and I've also got somebody there telling me, just so I don't screw up, in case there's any type of delay or anything, stick your hand out and win the match. What I did was I stuck my hand out underneath the ring apron and put it out on the mats before Big Show put his foot down, right before. And they had a camera angle of it, so it worked really well. And Big Show looked around, surprised and shocked and all that, just like you're supposed to do as the baby face that can't believe that he had it won and something crazy happened. So anyway, I do the finish. I come to the back, and the guy from underneath the ring comes back and goes, hey, man, thank you. And he looks at me and goes, is that real blood? I said, you think? Yeah, it was just funny. He's sitting there with me down underneath the ring and had no idea that this blood flowing out of my head might actually be real. And my wife, Meredith, when we first started dating, we were in New York, and we're in a cab, and I catch a cramp in my rib, just a cramp, from whatever. And I go, oh, she's, and I couldn't move in the back of the cab. I go, oh, she's, and she tells the cab driver, go to the hospital, go to the hospital. I go, no, I'm not going to the hospital. I got a cramp or something. She goes, go to the hospital. I said, no, we're not. She'd gone to Ivy League school. She had never been around, athletes, male athletes. She played some, hockey herself. She's an athlete, but never around male athletes. They've been hurt a lot. So fast forward that to Pittsburgh. I come back. I'm covered completely in blood, and I walk up to her. She's sitting there talking to some people, and I come upstairs. I said, "Hey, I'll be right there. Let me go shower right quick, and I'll be ready." These guys look at me like they've seen a ghost. They're like, "The guy's covered in blood," and she looks around. And she goes, "Okay, great. I'll see you in a little bit." It's not a big deal. By that point, she had gotten used to me being beaten up and bloody.
What a great story. Tony Flowers has a great question for us. He says, Adam Rose debuted with what I thought was a surprising amount of support and push from WWE. Lots of promo backstage and teasers leading to his television debut, not to mention a huge entourage with him on TV. It's been over 11 years now, and I think the WWE Universe would like to know, why exactly did JBL hate that damn bunny so much?
You know, we used the bunny during the JBL and Cole show, too. Daniel Bryan always played the bunny. So there was a lot of history with that bunny. We had a bunny in the bar fight we did with the APA that I threw through a window. I think I threw the bunny through a window. I'm not sure. I threw somebody through the window. But Bruce was in there. You had all these guys there. We had the Easter bunny was in there, too, beat up the bunny. I don't know how I got to hate bunnies so much, but it's definitely a thing. I still hate bunnies. Not as much as Chimmel, but bunnies are definitely on my shit list.
Sean wants to know, do you think the JBL character could have ever been a face, or was he always destined to be a heel for his entire run?
No, he could have been a face easy, I believe. No doubt about it. We had to work very hard to keep it heel at one point. You know, Vince would give me all kinds of advice, and a lot of times he would sit there and, you know, he'd tell me before I went out there on a promo, do not be entertaining, just be a heel. You know, because there was a chance of the crowd starting to change and start, you know, if you're entertaining for too long, any old heel becomes a babyface. You know, I saw Killer Tim Brooks one time work babyface one night against Crybaby Buxton in the Sportatorium, and people went crazy for him because he came out on the babyface side, or he came out in the heel side, but he came out as a babyface. And yeah, I think JBL could have been a babyface very easy. We had to be very careful for him not to be. I never wanted to be a babyface.
Ryan says, you've talked about your feeling towards Vince Russo. What are your thoughts on Ed Ferrara and his mockery of JR in WCW?
You know, I didn't like it. I didn't think you're going to make much money with it. You know, making fun of a person's, you know, the problem that they had with, you know, physical impairment. But, you know, I don't know. A lot of things are free game, I guess. Ed always got along with Ed. And to my knowledge, I don't know if we were friends, but we certainly were good acquaintances. You know, when Russo wanted me to learn how to speak without a Southern accent because he thought anybody from the South sounded stupid because he's a freaking Northern idiot. Ed Ferrara was one of the ones that, you know, was, hey, if you talk slower than deep voice, I'm not going to do that. You know, Ed was a good guy. As far as I remember, I always got along very well with Ed. Don't know where he is now. But as far as the stuff with JR, I'm not sure because, you know, I don't know if you look, I'm big on, if you're in the wrestling business, they're going to take shots at you. I don't really have a huge problem with that. I don't know where they were going with it to try to make money or if it was just a personal thing. I have no idea. The main thing was I didn't think it was that entertaining, but that's maybe that's not their fault. I don't know. I'm very mixed on stuff like that.
Here's one from Joe Gould. He wants to know, is Ron Simmons really as unfuckwithable as JR claims? I think that's interesting. Like, have you seen any I'm sure you've seen some crazy Ron interactions where even you as his best friend go, oh, maybe I'm puckering a little bit right now.
Yeah, Ron's ungodly strong. I mean, he's just a man. I mean, just literally some guys, you know, you don't mess with. The old story with Vader back in WCW and back in Japan when Vader almost knocked out Butch in the corner and Ron goes, tag me. And he came in there and literally spine busted Vader, who never left his feet. And he did it as a shoot. I mean, think about that, about how strong Ron Simmons did that. And Vader told me about it. He goes, man, I've never been manhandled. Like, here's a guy who was a former first round, second round draft pick in the NFL. He said, I've never been manhandled like Ron Simmons manhandled me. And Vader says, and Nick Patrick told me the story too. When I hit the ground, he goes, I looked up and goes, Ron, it's a work. Ron was unbelievable, man. The stuff he would do and the stuff I'd see him do in gyms and the respect he had and the way he carried himself, that's a legit legend. That ain't a man, that's a legend. And a great human being, by the way.
Good question here. What's your favorite non-WWE promotion that you have previously worked with? So besides WWE, who's your second favorite promotion you worked with?
AAA, I believe. AAA. I had so much fun down there. You know, I was down there and I was watching they had like a Royal Rumble, the first show I was down there for Triple Mania. You know, I worked with the Northern Territory, which was Elizondo, which worked with both groups. CMLL and AAA would work up there on Sunday nights at the Plaza del Toros in Monterrey. We'd also work Saltillo and a few other towns. Sometimes we worked 4 towns on a Sunday and then worked the border towns on Monday and Tuesday. And then I'd fly back to Texas. And so I got to work with a lot of the guys, but I didn't work down Triple Mania or anything. You know, Conan was the first big main event of the first Triple Mania. I went down there and I'm sitting there watching it. And you've got the little guys, and you've got big little guys and little guys. So you got the Andre spot being done by the big little guys and little guys. Then you got women come out. Then you got men coming out who are fighting each other intergender. Then you got a trans come out. And I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've ever freaking seen. I look at Jeff Jarrett. I'm sitting backstage and going, this is freaking awesome. I mean, this is insane. What's going on? No wonder people love this stuff. I mean, it's just fun. I mean, AAA to me is just fun. It's just lucha to me is fun. It's just people go to have a good time. They want to see these magnificent characters. And I think as far as other promotions I've worked with, because it's so different, a lot of promotions have been really fun. I loved working with Tommy and Dreamer at TNA. I mean, I love Tommy. And TNA was a lot of fun to work with. The Ryan Nemeth, by the way, is one of the best characters out there. He's so him and Nick are so entertaining. But probably AAA was probably my most fun to work with.
One last question from he brought a bunch of good ones. Shout out to Joe. Who could not keep up with you when drinking with the boys?
Oh, interesting question. Yeah, there were quite a few. I mean, back in the day, I drank a lot. I drank 25, 30 beers, literally one sitting. I mean, just one sitting. And I didn't drink alcohol very well. I didn't drink whiskey very well. That's why I would stay away from it. I mean, guys would get me, pretty drunk on. They used to gargle Jack Daniels and stuff. That would kill me. But as far as beer, I could sit there and drink beer all day. I mean, literally 25, 30 beers, and I'm still relatively fine. Obviously, I'm impaired, but I'd still be functioning pretty well. And occasionally guys would try to we had a writer one time. We were in where were we? We were in Minneapolis or Colorado, I can't remember, after the show. And I called him over. I said, would you like to have a drink with us? And he said, oh no, I'm good, thank you. It was me, Michael Cole, and I can't remember who it was. I don't know if Cena was there or not. And anyway, Michael Cole for sure was there in Orlando. And he said, besides, I just got out of college. And I said, what does that mean? He goes, well, I'm in drinking shape.
Oh,
I said,
bad move.
Really? Really? I said, I'll tell you what, come sit by me. And I said, I'm not going to ask you to do anything I don't do. I'm just going to ask you to do what I do. And so the next morning I got up, I go golfing, and I get a call. It's from the WWE. They go, we're in the production meeting. We just found that writer outside of his room, passed out in the hall. And I was playing golf the next morning.
All right. So even better question, when we're talking about who could not keep up with you, who could you not keep up with?
Murdoch was a guy. I rode with Murdoch. Man, Murdoch drank beer all day, and I couldn't drink beer all day. I preferred to wait till after wrestling. Murdoch would drink all day. I've never seen anything like it. He would just drink. He would drink from morning to night, and apparently it didn't look like he ever got drunk. And man, it would drive me nuts. He was a fun guy, by the way. But Murdoch was probably the one that I would not sit down and try to go beer for beer with.
Did you ever go into one of these drinking sessions and maybe somebody got too drunk to really handle their part of the bill and you had to settle up with them the next day? Like you covered their tab, but made sure you let them know about it the next day. Did that ever happen?
Yeah, I did. But it was never a matter of, hey, give me my money. I was never big on that. If a guy forgot the bill, they didn't mean to do it. And, I would, unless there was a reason to tell them, I probably wouldn't even tell them about it. I'd probably just cover it. Now, if there's a reason, like they left the bar bill and the bar was mad about it or something, I might tell them because they need to know, because they need to apologize to the bar next time we're there or something. But if they just got drunk and forgot about it, I would say just give me the bill. That wasn't a big deal to me.
These days, you could hit them with Cash App. Everybody I know is using Cash App. And if you're not already using it, my question to you is, what's wrong with you? I'm telling you, they make it so easy. And you may not know this, but Cash App is more than just a safe way to send and receive money. Check this out. With the Cash App card, you get tons of perks, all without hidden fees. You could think early access to concert pre-sales to big stars like Kendrick Lamar and Sabrina Carpenter. Plus, you get discounts on your everyday purchases at brands you're probably already spending money on. It even keeps your money safe by automatically flagging suspicious transactions and letting you lock your card instantly if it's ever lost or stolen. There's no reason not to have Cash App. It's just easier. It's more convenient. And man, it gives you the peace of mind. I mean, you can actually go ahead and take advantage of a really cool promotion. I can't believe they're doing this. I don't know how long they'll do it, but right now for a limited time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use the Cash App code Cash App 10 in their profile at sign up, and then send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Discounts provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. One more time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use the code Cash App 10 in their profile at sign up, and then send a friend $5 within 14 days. Come on now. It's like free money. Why wouldn't you do this?
JCW Lunacy. New episodes every Thursday night at 7 p.m. on YouTube. For over 25 years, JCW has delivered the very best in pro wrestling entertainment, bringing fans deep storytelling drama, gut-busting comedy, and unbelievable in-ring action. From wild characters to unforgettable rivalries, don't miss a single moment. Tune in every Thursday night at 7 p.m. on YouTube. JCW Lunacy.
The APA has one of the rare tag teams in the early 2000s to not start a feud where they split up. Before Ron Simmons' retirement, was there ever a discussion of doing a program between the two men? The payoff would have been perfect at WrestleMania 20 instead of a tag team fatal four-way. What can you tell us about this, John? Was it ever discussed?
No, never discussed. Ron and I wrestled each other a ton of times. In fact, when we went unopposed, that one time that we wrestled, we did an 8.6 quarter hour. That was the same quarter hour that Jerry Briscoe and Pat Patterson wrestled the Main Street Posse, but it was an 8.6. That will never be equal. Not taking credit for it. We just happen to be the highest quarter hour of that unopposed show. We wrestled each other a ton of times. We tagged against each other a lot. We didn't have a desire at the end to wrestle each other in an angle. Not that we minded wrestling each other. We'd done it enough times. That was not a big deal. Ron's I think 6 years older than me. So he retired. I retired a little bit earlier than he did, age-wise. He was beat up. Man, he played in the NFL nose tackle. He played in college football. He's in every college football Hall of Fame there is as a nose tackle, when they just destroyed those guys, knees, hips, everything. He's got a fake hip now. Ron was pretty beat up. He wrestled probably longer than he should have. And one of the reasons was because we were good friends and we were having so much fun. So it wasn't a huge desire of Ron to continue wrestling. He did the best thing for me, which is, so appreciative. He's my best friend, and it was really cool what he did for me. He made me before he left and gave me all that equity that he had in himself. And I don't know. We just never really thought it was that good of an idea. And, maybe if we had done that in the mid 90s, it'd have been different. But at this point, I've got to go almost straight to Eddie Guerrero and some other things. And Ron's kind of ready to get out of the ring completely.
Interesting question here from James. He says, do you recall your short run with the European title in late 2001? And if you recall this, you defend and lose the European title to Christian on a SmackDown in Cincinnati, but the match doesn't air, and then Christian comes out as a new champion on Raw. John, why didn't the match air?
I have no idea. I saw this question before. It's one of the few questions I saw. I had no idea. I didn't know that. I didn't know the match didn't air. I guess they gave such a little shit either about me or the title that the match didn't air. Just get rid of me and the title and give it to somebody who can carry it, I guess. I don't know. I have no idea why it didn't air. I guess time constraints, but that tells you how much they cared about some of these secondary titles.
Yeah, it's weird that they didn't even show the title change on TV. That's weird.
Right.
Speaking of weird, We got a weird question here that maybe I wish you were 35 beers deep before I asked. The doc wants to know, would John prefer to fight 8 tigers the size of a duck or 1 duck the size of a tiger? So you want 8 little duck-sized tigers, or do you want 1 big tiger-sized duck?
Oh,
what
that's
do you think is
easy.
easier for you?
Yeah, that's easy. I had some ducks when I was in college. I don't know how we got these ducks. I can't remember. I know we got them rescued them somewhere. I ended up with 3 like little ducklings, and we had a suite, and so we'd lock off the door and we'd put them in the bathroom in the middle. There were like 2 rooms on one side, 2 rooms on the other. In the middle was like a bathroom for everybody, a shower each side, and 2 toilets, and I think a urinal or 2 in the middle. So we'd lock off the door. We kept these ducks in there. We'd feed these ducks, and they shit 24/7. That's all they did. I mean, all they did was eat and shit. I mean, they shit all over the place. It was horrible. I finally found like a little refuge and went out and Huey, Louie, and Dewey, the ducks, and we named them. Finally found a little refuge, and I took them out this lake and made sure that they were compatible with the other ducks and put them out there. We fed them for a while. Then they were on their own, and they were fine. They quit coming after a while, and I was so glad to get rid of those damn ducks because all they did was go to the bathroom. So there's no doubt about this. I've got cats everywhere. As you've seen, I got a cat named Briscoe that I rescued recently. Cats will run from you if you kick them. So if you've got a bunch like 8 duck-sized tigers, they're not much different from house cats. Same type of thing. If you kick at them, they're going to run from you. They're not going to jump up on you and like all 8. That doesn't happen with cats. But if you have like a tiger-sized duck, ducks are mean. That son of a bitch will peck you to death and then probably shit all over you. So there's no doubt about it. Give me the freaking 8 duck-sized tigers. I will whoop their ass. But I ain't messing with that tiger-sized duck.
The idea that, he would whoop your ass and then shit on you, it makes me wonder, is that giant duck, is its last name Waltman? I don't know. We'll figure it out. Still around.
Buster in the corner. So his wings flapping. Yeah.
I guess it would be a duck buster, or maybe he'd call it a goose buster.
One of the two. I don't think
the wings flapping. What a visual. We're going to have to get Silva to make that with AI in time for next week.
AI was the thing he did with Gerald Briscoe, by the way.
It's funny you say that because since we've been recording, I got another voicemail. I feel bad for these guys because these are supposed to be the trainers that you've signed up here, Jody Malenko and Gerald
Great
Briscoe. But now I've actually got the voicemail that, again, I think he sent to me by mistake, and I forwarded over to Silva. Now, I'll admit I haven't had a chance to listen to this one, but it is a voicemail from Jody Malenko. But I think he and Mr. Briscoe are accidentally leaving these messages for me. Let's take a listen to whatever this voicemail says here.
Great guy. Love Jody.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Briscoe, I got your message. Look, you and I both know we've worked with worse. I got somebody I'm training right now, kind of on par with John. And I turned to that person. I said, Grandma, let's go. Put the walker off to the side and let's get moving. It's about intensity, not just going through the motion.
That sounds like Jody.
Well, John, I'm not kidding. I mean, I know that we mess around and we have fun here on the show, but that came in while we were recording. I wouldn't have had a chance to mess with you and do AI on this.
Now, a couple things here. Jody's training her grandma with a walker?
I don't know if he's teaching her how to walk again, or maybe she was in a car wreck, or I don't know what happened, but
is she training like MMA or something? And somehow this grandma reminds Jody of me. I
don't think Rhonda's using a walker. I don't know who he's training, but he was kind of making a comparison there that didn't seem so pleasant. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings or pile on, but do we need to look for new trainers, or are you gonna?
Oh, hell no. I got the best trainers in the world. These are my dear friends. Jody is like all the Malenkos. He's a funny guy, and he loves to make jokes. So that's all this is. Jody's a wonderful human being, and you're gonna see Mr. Briscoe's the same. He's my dear friend. These guys are training me. They're legendary trainers, and the they're very much behind me. It doesn't sound like it with this, but some of this is, I'm telling you, some of this is AI.
Okay. Let's move on. Zill Around says, who is the most professional wrestler that John's ever worked with? No complaints about putting someone over, never giving receipts, always pleasant in the locker room. And then the reverse. Who was the worst? All right. I know that's not really your deal. You're probably not going to shit on anybody. Love for you too, if you feel so inclined, but let's give somebody some flowers. Who's the most professional wrestler you ever worked with? And if you were thinking about saying it, do not say the Undertaker. Let's pick another name.
I know. Barry Windham.
Okay.
I was so stiff when I was young, and I just, man, I kicked the shit out of people. And Barry told me one day, he said, kid, I don't care how hard you hit me. I just care about your aim. Because I was, man, we were wrestling each other. I'm just kicking the shit out of him. Barry never gave me a receipt. Barry never gave me nothing. And he certainly didn't bitch. He is a tough fucker. But he did tell me one point. He goes, I just care about your aim. And so it was really cool the way he said it. You know, I felt terrible. Like, oh my God, I've been stiffing him and didn't even know it. And Barry was awesome that way. There were a lot of guys. I mean, there were a lot of really good guys like that were just super old, tough guys. They wouldn't bitch about nothing. Now, some guys like Black Bart would bitch about anything because bitching was an art to them. So when they come back, they did it as a way to entertain the boys. Road Dogg was like that. Road Dogg's a tough dude, former Marine, been in war, combat. Road Dogg's a tough dude. He'd come back and he'd say, JBL damn near killed me, blah, blah, blah. Road Dogg doesn't care. But, you know, a lot of the older guys, and Road Dogg's like me, so I'm calling myself older too, love to bitch as a form of art. And they come back and they'd love to bitch about. Murdoch was like that. Murdoch was super tough. Come back and would bitch like crazy. And, you know, Stan would even bring it up sometimes, and Stan certainly didn't care. A lot of these old guys would love to bitch, but it wasn't serious. It was fun bitching to entertain the boys. And as far as the other, no, I'm not going to say about it. But I will say this, and you can make your own judgment as to who it is. There were some assholes that you would go into these territories, and they were either big names at one point or they were decent sized names at one point. They never made it anywhere, and they would they'd bitch about everything. You know, they're unhappy with their lot in life. They weren't successful, and those were the guys that were, you know, could be real assholes. You see, that's one of the reasons a lot of older guys won't go to some of these reunions for territories, because you see these guys that, you know, when you go back and you visit some of these top guys, are guys who made it, are guys who were on the roster for a long time. They're not bitter. They were glad of their time. Guys that didn't make it and thought they should and thought so much higher of themselves, they'll tell you stories. I've been back to some Texas reunions, and I hear stories that guys will tell, and I was there. That didn't happen. You're just lying to try to make yourself feel better around your current family or your current friends, to make you feel like you were worthwhile or something in your life, and most of those guys weren't.
Let's do a question here from Boom Boom Room 131. He wants to know, John, why do you think we haven't seen any more cinematic matches? It seemed the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse match were both successful during that COVID WrestleMania. As a retired wrestler, would a cinematic match interest you in any way, to have some sort of a return match?
Oh, hell yeah, because you can dress up so much with a cinematic match. Now, I would have a hard time with the stop and go. You know, the hard part about cinematic matches, and I called the commentary for WrestleMania when they had no crowd. Vince asked me to come down. He wanted an old voice on camera. And I remember they were doing a ladder match. They called stop one time and redid a spot off the ladder. And I'm like, you got to be shitting me. You know, when you do it, when you're like flowing in a match and you're sweating and you go up to the top of something, you take a big bump off or something, you know, it hurts. You really feel it. You know, you feel it later, but you're part of the action. When you got to climb back up and go, okay, now I'm going to do this just as a stunt, that hurts. And so that would be one of the problems that I would have, was the stop and go. But yeah, I'd love to do it. Some cinematic matches are fun. I don't know why they don't do them anymore. I think it's because they're hard and they take a lot of time. You know, a lot of times we do these cinematic matches and we would do stuff where we do shoots off site or something. And we'd be out there almost all night. We shot a commercial one time, a baseball commercial. We were there from, I think, 10 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning, filming this commercial to get the nighttime scene in, because we needed the park. We had to do it after they were done using it for baseball or whatever they're using it for. And they're hard and they take a long time. I think that may be the reason, but I love the cinematic matches.
We got another fun one here. Gareth wants to know, if you were booking two guys to portray the APA in the 80s to early 90s and the 2010s to today, who would you pick and why? So if we're going to take a look back, John, and we're going to think about the 80s and 90s, let's try to find a group that aren't necessarily already a tag team, but maybe were two guys who could have played the roles, but just didn't really have the opportunity. So if we were to put the APA gimmick on two big badasses, the 80s version of yourself and Ron, does anybody stand out?
I can tell you the 90s version. I just thought about this. I can tell you the 90s version that I would love to see, and I think this would be, God, this would be entertaining, is Booker T and Scott Steiner.
Okay.
I would love to see those two guys together in a tag team. They both can talk. They're both entertaining as they can be. They're both, double tough dudes. I think that would be, my God, man, that would be freaking entertaining. As far as the 80s, you got to go Stan. I mean, Stan is, he would be perfect. Not just because, I look up to Stan so much and really respect him. Stan would be perfect. Stan's one of the most entertaining guys there is. That promo he cuts where you young kids roll around chasing women in their short little breeches. I got a fat, ugly wife and 4 kids to feed. Stan's the greatest out there. I think Stan and Brody would be great APA. Put them in a backstage skit. I know they're a tag team, but put them in the backstage skit and put them around a table and let them be funny. I think that Brody was never the funny guy. I think Brody could have been a really funny, straight guy along with Stan. I think they could have done some great stuff together.
Your idea about Scott Steiner and Booker T, no doubt I see the parallels in that you and Ron were both had a lot of success as tag team wrestlers and then as singles champions. But I might actually go the absolute inverse. I think Stevie Ray was criminally underrated and super funny. And Stevie Ray and Rick Steiner, just the absolute opposite of what you suggested. Because everybody knows Rick Steiner can tie your ass on a knot. He's un-F-withable. But then I think Stevie Ray adds all the personality. I don't know. That to me, especially if you go back to early Rick Steiner where he was playing like he wasn't so sure about what was going on and he was kind of aloof or whatever, that could lend itself to some fun comedy stuff, I think.
I agree. Smart guys always play the dumb guys because it's hard to play them. And Rick is the typical of that. Rick and Stevie. I love Stevie. I think Stevie's great. I think Stevie's a smart guy, and Stevie can freaking talk. I think Stevie would be great in that role. I agree completely. There are a lot of guys out there that would have been a lot of fun, especially if you put them in. Me and Ron got lucky. We were just kind of mute guys as the freaking Hell's Henchmen. Acolytes, whatever the hell we were. And we got lucky, then all of a sudden Vince said, hey, guys, just go out there and be entertaining. We would go out there for weeks and just do backstage skits. Didn't even have to wrestle. We'd wrestle, obviously, on the road and the house shows. It was awesome. Some of these guys like that, if they had the same opportunity, they'd have been just as good as we were.
Think about early Rick Steiner where he was drawing like a little mouth on his hand and making it like a hand puppet. If he was doing that with, should we kick their ass? And all that sort of silliness with the APA. But you have all the personality of Stevie Ray, who was calling people fruit booties on commentary and things like that in WCW.
That's an old Texas saying.
I could see Vince getting into that gimmick in a big way with Rick Steiner and Stevie Ray. And by the way, how is Stevie Ray how is he in better shape now than he was back then? He looks better than ever right now.
I don't know how old Stevie is, but he looks amazing. I saw him the day at some deal, and God Almighty, he looks good. I mean, he looks fantastic. That's a big man, and he looks as good now as he's ever looked. I looked at Ron today. They look like he's got 23-inch arms. I don't know what the hell. These guys are like Jonathan Winters and Mork and Mindy. They're aging backwards like Billy Gunn and freaking Al Snow. I mean, I hate these guys because they make me look so freaking old and decrepit. So, the only time I got in the ring with the Steiners, we're at a battle royal somewhere. I can't remember where it was. I think it was on the hunting trip we did when Jeff Foxworthy was down there and they, put the dead buck in his bed. And I think that's what it was. And the Steiners got me in the freaking battle royal. They both jumped me and tied me up. I'm like, guys, I'm telling you, if I can get a hand free, I'll whoop both your asses. I will whoop both your asses if you'll just let me up. And they're like, I couldn't do anything.
Tell me about the modern era. Let's talk about maybe 2010 to now, the last 15 years. Are there two guys who could pick up where the APA left off if we put them together? Like they have enough credibility as big badass guys, but they could also lean in and do some comedy stuff. Does anybody come to mind?
Yeah, I've always thought Shelton Benjamin, him and Charlie, and I know you're talking more than modern era. Shelton's still out there. So is Charlie. Actually, looks great right now. Coaching a high school team that Mr. Briscoe hooked him up with the job, doing a wonderful job. Charlie's doing a wonderful job down in Florida. Good guy. Always thought Sheldon would be perfect in that role. Man, he used to do a Slim Whitman impersonation of me where he'd walk pigeon-toed and he'd wear my hat and he'd do the romping and a stomping, a whooping and a whomping, whooping every man and child in an inch of their life. He'd do all this shit making fun of me. It was so freaking funny. I'm one of the biggest Sheldon Benjamin fans in the world. I think Sheldon would be good. I think Bobby can do anything as well. I think Bobby could be the ultimate straight guy and stuff like that. Bobby's a very smart guy, obviously. And I think Bobby would be a great one half of that. Obviously we're kind of trying to pick, matching, black and white tag team. So I got to figure out who the white guy would be in it. I'm not sure.
It's interesting to think about though, because when you're thinking about who has credibility, but also could do more of the funny ha-ha stuff, that makes it more complicated. I know it's not exactly 2010 to now, but a guy like Hardcore Holly, I feels like could have checked that box.
Yeah, and Bob's entertaining.
Yes.
Bob's entertaining. Another guy, and I just talked to him on the phone a couple of days ago, was Steve Blackman. Blackman was very entertaining. Blackman, I think, could have done that. Blackman's a very funny guy, has a great sense of humor. I think Bob or Steve could have been very good at that. He playing that role of being also, the tough guy. You take him out of that environment and put him in something else.
Let's do another question from Mark, and this is kind of a financial question. What does JBL think the future of crypto is?
I don't understand crypto well, and so I don't invest in it. And obviously, there's been a lot of money being made in it. Here's my view on it, and I've been wrong 100%, and I may be wrong in the future. I believe if you can't control the ebb and flow of a currency and you can't control crypto, then central banks become irrelevant. And so I think central banks are going to have a problem with crypto because they can't control the ebbs and flow of printing money. And so they can't control inflation. I believe also if you have a cash economy, this is the cash economy on steroids. And so if you have a transaction between me and you, Conrad, as long as there's not an off-ramp here where I cash out the crypto into currency or something, nobody knows about it. So if we're not honest and we don't announce this or declare this for taxation purposes, you've got a real economy here that you're not going to be able to tax. It'll degrade your tax base. So I believe if you have a degradation of a tax base and you have the central bank becoming worthless, I believe governments are going to try to limit crypto. And the only way to do that is to limit the transaction places. You can't limit crypto, but you can limit the off-ramps of where you can cash in and cash out. And I think governments, because they can't control it, I think are going to try to limit it. That's my biggest fear about crypto. I have been 100% wrong about it, by the way, but that's my biggest fear.
We get lots of questions like these. I'm not sure that you even ever see them. But Sports Fan, or as he's known on Twitter, SM Sports Guy on Twitter, says, ask the wrestling god to unblock me, please. I don't know why I even did it in the first place. How often, when you're making appearances, like at WrestleCade, where I know you're going to be later this month, how often do people approach your table and say, will you please unblock me on Twitter? Does it even come up like that?
It does come up, and a lot of times I will unblock them, but a lot of times I'll say, I don't even know why you blocked me, and I go, you had to say something. Because I don't just randomly block people. So invariably they will look at me like, oh, yeah, I liked a tweet that said you were this or that. Yeah, it's okay. So you were actually guilty. So that's one of the funny parts when people tell me, because I always try to figure out what it is that I blocked them for. And it's always something. I blocked 17,000 something people. There's a good chance I blocked somebody by mistake, but pretty good high likelihood that nearly everybody on there is done for a reason.
Big Seventh Letter on Twitter wants to know, who came up with the random door to the APA office? It was genius, especially when people didn't use it and APA aggressively told them to use the door.
Ron Simmons. We're sitting there building the set, and Ron goes, "Yeah, leave it like that." And they go, "Ron, there's no walls." Ron goes, "Yeah, leave it like that." And they're sitting there looking at it. One of the writers, I don't know if it's Tommy Blancha, who I love, and a really smart guy, goes, "Oh my God, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant." And they left the door. And that's how the whole thing came. It was Ron's idea.
Here's one from Hicks. He wants to know, John, what's the difference between a clothesline and a lariat?
Nomenclature, that's all. There's no difference. I hear them all the time. Oh, that's a lariat, that's a clothesline. I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. Now, listen, you guys may have it defined some way to yourself. I don't know the definition of it, and I have no idea. But people say, "Oh, a lariat is this, or a lariat's that, a clothesline is this, or clothesline is that." In my opinion, they're the exact same thing. It's just whatever you want to call it. And so I have no idea what people are out there saying the difference is. I've heard people go into it. It didn't really make a lot of sense to me because I didn't see that, and I've never heard that. So I think it's just a matter of nomenclature about what you choose to call it.
Well, what I choose to call the holiday season sometimes is stressful, but if you want to call it fun, can I recommend Soul? When the holiday season rolls around, it feels like there's a party every single weekend. All the sugary drinks add up. And this season, I'm going to reach out to Soul's out-of-office gummies instead. It's the same fun vibe. It's low in calories and zero hangover. You got cold nights and cozy blankets and Soul's out-of-office gummies. It's a favorite routine now here in the Thompson household. I love to throw on an old Christmas movie, grab a gummy, and unwind, especially this time of year. Maybe call it a little self-care ritual that keeps me calm through the holiday chaos. Soul is a wellness brand that believes feeling good should be fun and easy. Soul specializes in delicious hemp-derived THC and CBD products designed to boost your mood and help you unwind. Their best-selling out-of-office gummies were designed to provide a mild, relaxing buzz, boost your mood, and enhance your creativity and even your relaxation. With 5 different strengths, you can tailor the dose to fit your vibe. From a gentle 1.5 milligram microdose, that's what Megan uses, to their newest 15 milligram gummy for a more elevated experience. Shout out to Casio Kid. And if you like their out-of-office gummies, you got to try the brand new out-of-office beverage. It's a refreshing, alcohol-free alternative that's perfect for winding down on the couch or socializing with friends. And I've got a friend in my life who doesn't drink anymore, and this drink is perfect for him if he wants to socialize. Soul also has a variety of products specifically designed to help you get a better night's rest, including their top-selling Sleepy Gummies. It's a fan favorite for that deep restorative sleep you've been looking for. With wellness at the forefront, you can feel good about what you're putting in your body. All of Soul's products are made from organically farmed, USA-grown hemp, and it's vegan, gluten-free, low in sugar, and federally legal. But most of all, it's fun. Take advantage of Soul's Black Friday/Cyber Monday deal right now. For a limited time, get 40% off your entire order. Just go to getsoul.com and use the promo code WRESTLE. That's GETSOUL.com, getsoul.com. And the promo code is WRESTLE. You'll get 40% off. That's getsoul.com. With the promo code WRESTLE, you'll get 40% off. Don't miss the best deal of the year. It's getsoul.com, promo code WRESTLE.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's time to count down the top 5. Brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Having a lot of fun with these top 5s, John, and I know we've been doing them for quite a while now. You actually put a lot of thought into this, and I can really appreciate that. As you've been making appearances at places like WrestleCon, has anybody sort of challenged you on who some of your answers may have been for these top 5s? Does it ever come up like, hey, you had so-and-so, and I totally disagree?
Yeah, and I love it. Absolutely love it, because it's a matter of opinion. So I love to hear people's feedback. I know if people want to send me stuff on Twitter, I'm not going to block you for that. I'll block you if you call me an asshole, but I'm not going to block you for that. I love it. I love people disagreeing with this because I love hearing their thoughts on it. Because like when you're talking about like the 5 best of anything, wrestling has been around so long. There's been so many thousands and thousands of performers and instances and all kinds of events. I mean, it's impossible to get that right. I'd love to hear people's feedback, but yeah, I go to these cons and people will challenge me. Hey, you had the top 5 this. I disagree with that. I think you should put this one in there. And I love hearing talk like that.
We want to hear from you. Who are your answers to today's top 5? John, today we're going to be asking who are the top 5 foreign heels who got the most nuclear heat.
Mhm.
And if you're watching with us on YouTube at somethingtowrestle.com, I want you to drop your top 5 foreign heels who got nuclear heat in the comments. Coming in at number 5 on John's list of the top 5 foreign heels who got the most nuclear heat, the Great Kabuki. Now, this is a throwback name. I haven't heard that name in quite a while. Why is the Great Kabuki in at number 5, John?
He had scary heat. He had scary heat like an Abdullah or a Sheik, or he had scary heat. And with Gary Hart, nobody had ever seen anything like this Kabuki. He was not a big guy, but he could do incredible things. And he and Gary Hart, I don't know where Gary Hart, the whole story of it, but my God, man. That's when wrestling first started taking off in Dallas, was because of a heel, not because of the Von Erich boys. The first thing that was started taking off was Kabuki. And then the Von Erich boys took it to a new level, and the Freebirds come in, the place accelerates and goes straight to the moon. But Kabuki was the guy. I mean, this guy was an incredible heel, and he had one of the greatest managers of all time in Gary Hart. I mean, Kabuki is easily top 5 foreign heel of all time.
Coming in at number 4 on John's top 5 foreign heels who got nuclear heat list, the original Sheik. Man, you have talked about the Sheik so much on our last year together. I know you hold him in high regard, but why does he make your list on the top 5 foreign heels?
This guy printed money. I mean, printed money. He was one of the first hardcore guys. He was one of the first guys who went around the territories. He owned the territory there in Detroit, and we talked about it many times that he made $600,000 or $700,000 is what he reported to the IRS back in the early 70s. That's what he reported. So obviously, you can do the math yourself, and the natural assumption that there's probably a lot more that was not reported, but that is a hell of a wage back then, and he got it by giving heat. He stayed in character. People would call, Ed Farhat was his name. People would call his house and say, Ed, and he goes, there's no Ed here. He would kayfabe on his own personal phone. Man, it's just hard to explain what a great heel the Sheik was, and the longevity that he had as well in Detroit.
Coming in at number 3 on JBL's list of the top 5 foreign heels who got nuclear heat. Hey, explain this one to me. I'll admit, I don't know a ton about them. Heard the name, the Fabulous Kangaroos.
Holy shit, man. This was Costello and Heffernan. These guys drew massive money. I mean, they're the first tag team to draw really big money, first tag team to go in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. I mean, these guys were just, I don't know if they were journeymen necessarily, but they were not big stars. And they all of a sudden decided to put this tag team together, and they became the Kangaroos. And there were several iterations of the Kangaroos. But these guys drew nuclear heat in different places. I mean, there were riots. There were police having to show up to get these guys out of rings. I mean, these guys were legendary, man. But a lot of you see in tag team wrestling came about because of the Kangaroos, and a lot of stuff you see because of heels came out by the Kangaroos. A lot of people imitated these guys, but it's kind of like the Road Warriors, always imitated, never duplicated. And that was the Fabulous Kangaroos.
Coming in at number 2 on your list of the top 5 foreign heels who got nuclear heat, Tiger Jeet Singh. Boy, I remember getting footage of this guy in like the 1995 IWA King of the Deathmatch. I have to admit, when I saw that tape in 96, that was my first exposure to this character. Tell us why he comes in at number 2 for you.
The amount of money that he drew in Japan, he and Mr. Ueda. Mr. Ueda was a legendary old tough guy heel, blonde-haired heel. He was the first heel to be a trader. There's Mr. Ueda behind him right there. Man, you talk about a tag team now. Ueda was the first trader heel in Japan. He dyed his hair blonde. He became the trader. He brought in Tiger Jeet Singh. These two guys were freaking menaces. I mean, absolute menaces. I rode with Tiger. Tiger stayed in character 100% of the time. We get out at some little 7-Eleven somewhere in Japan, and he'd get out with his sword and chase people around the 7-Eleven. And people knew him so well, they were scared to death of him. I mean, Tiger drew massive amounts of money. You talk about a foreign heel. I cannot begin to tell you how over Tiger was. Now, by the time you saw him in the 90s, he had lost a bit of a step. He came back and did the stuff with the death matches and stuff, this was 20 years past probably his prime in Japan, and he was still over. Then he came to where I was in the wrestling world in Japan, same company. And I got to ride with him a lot. We got to go all over Japan together, and I learned a lot from him. But man, Tiger, my God, man, he was one of these first. He's one of the ones that Stan Hansen got his style from, because Stan saw Tiger come out and never quit moving, and Stan thought, if I can do that, nobody else does that. And that's where Stan got this crazy, wild style from, was from Tiger Jeet Singh. That's how much Stan thought of Tiger Jeet Singh. But him and Wada together, brother. They were unbelievable. I'll tell you what, we were down in Kumamoto one time, and Wada had separate friends down in Kumamoto, associates, and Wada had been out for, good Lord, man, 3 nights. He hadn't been. Wada was an incredible, generous man, a very, very nice man. He would take all the boys out, take care of us. He made sure we were taken care of. He was a really nice man, but he had a lot of connections. So did Tiger. We're in a 6-man tag one time. Wada takes a bump off the apron, falls down, and he's out on the ground. And James Beard was referee. I said, "What the hell happened to Wada?" He goes, "I don't know." I said, "You better go check on him. Something's wrong with him." And Wada's down there. He had fallen asleep. He'd fallen asleep in a 6-man tag. He'd been out for 3 days because he had so many obligations to take out, the Yakuza and the boys and all that stuff. He took a bump and he finally hit the ground and fell asleep. That man woke up and did the finish. I'm not shitting. He woke up and came in and remembered the finish and did it. What James Beard went and got to go, Mr. Wada-san, finish. And he goes, "Oh, okay." And he woke up and freaking did the finish. So legend can be added to both of those guys as foreign heels.
Last one. Number 1 on JBL's top 5 foreign heels who got nuclear heat. John, drop some knowledge on us. Yusuf Ismail?
Oh, my God. Every heel in the world is a descendant from this guy. The Terrible Turk. He didn't have a long career. He had riots everywhere he'd been. He was a guy that you don't know how much was legitimate about him or not, how much was real, how much was fake. He had a story that, he could have been a dock worker from Paris. That's what they think he may have been. Or he could have been the guy who defeated the Turkish champion that was undefeated 30 years, which he did as well. But he came to the States, and he was such a freaking heel. He would beat guys, Conrad. He was a Goldberg before Goldberg. He'd beat guys when guys were wrestling an hour and 2 hours. He'd beat guys in 15 seconds, and the place would riot. They were not mad about it. They were just like, "We hate this guy." When his boat finally sunk, he had got enough money. He was going back. He was going to open up a Turkish coffee shop back in Europe. The boat sank somewhere around Nova Scotia or somewhere. They still made up some bullshit explanation why he drowned, because he had his gold belt around him and he wouldn't let go of his gold belt. He also threw a bunch of women and children off the lifeboat to their deaths, trying to save himself. They made up all this heel stuff about him, even in his death. He is maybe the greatest heel of all time. But every foreign heel, every heel in wrestling from that point forward is a descendant of Yusuf Ismail.
What a great list. So that's John's top 5. We want to know your top 5 below, but before we put a button on it, in typical JBL fashion, we got to run through some honorable mentions. So I want to shout out some of those honorable mentions that you felt like were worthy of being mentioned, even if they didn't quite make your top 5. Here's one that was born in Tennessee, but actually was the Ugandan giant Kamala. He makes the honorable mention list. Chat me up.
Yeah, absolute. You talk about inspiring fear in people. James, the Kamala, was a guy that inspired fear everywhere he went. He did a hell of a job with his Kamala. Would never speak. It's similar to Abdullah. Would never speak the English anywhere. He stayed in character all the time. He drew a hell of a lot of money and was a terrific. Even though he's from Tennessee, he played a foreign heel.
Also on the list.
By the way, I love the fact like when you had Kamala against Trump, all these memes about the Ugandan giant running against Trump.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to touch that one. I do want to talk about Bret Hart. He is a name that I did not expect, but I guess from an American perspective in 1997, he was a foreign heel, probably one of the biggest heels in the business besides Hulk Hogan that year, but goodness gracious. Didn't see him making the list on your honorable mentions list.
Yeah, I got to give it to Brett. You know, he was a foreign heel, and he was a heel at different points in his life, but he was a real foreign heel during the late 90s, during the Attitude Era. But I didn't put him in the top 5 because he's a babyface in Canada. So you got this huge country up north, our neighbor, that loved him. He was just a heel everywhere else in the world. Well, I don't know about everywhere else in the world. He was a heel in the United States was where he was a heel. So I didn't put him in the top 5 because you had a whole country up there that loves him and reveres him, as they should. But he was absolutely hated in the United States because he was such a great heel.
Also on your list of the top 5 foreign heels, an honorable mention, Masahiro Chono, also of a more modern era. Why does he make the list, John?
You talk about a walking, talking badass, man. That Chono was freaking the man. I mean, this guy was walking death, man. He came out in that black duster with the sleeves cut out. I saw him wrestle Tony St. Clair in Europe. I think it was Hanover. I believe it was Tony. It was either Tony or Luke Poirier or Rambo. I remember Chono because I remember him taking the pole outside the ring. I remember it like it was yesterday the way he took it. It was just amazing. Chono was a hell of a heel. I mean, just a pure freaking heel and just an absolute badass too. He had that look about him that a lot of people try and a lot of people have imitated, and they don't come across as badass. They just come across as cosplay guys. This man was not cosplay nothing. This man was a badass.
Last but not least, boy, this will get some attention. An honorable mention on your list of the top 5 foreign heels that get nuclear heat. Gunther. Man, I'm missing him these days. Why is he on your list of honorable mentions?
I think Gunther is an incredible heel. And I think, obviously he's a foreign heel, so he doesn't really play up the foreign. He does some. I think Gunther is an incredible heel, and he tries to be a heel. He doesn't try to be a babyface. Gunther tries to be a legit heel, and I think Gunther has incredible heat. I'm a huge fan of Gunther. I think Gunther in any generation, Gunther is a star, and lucky that this generation has him. But he's a hell of a heel.
So there you go. There's JBL's top 5 list of his.
Hey, and Conrad,
5.
just so you know, the reason I didn't put Gunther, he's not eligible in top 5 because his career is not done yet. So that's the reason I didn't put him in top 5, because career is not done yet.
Well, let's talk about who is on your top 5. At number 5, it's Great Kabuki. At number 4, it's the Original Sheik. At number 3, it's the Fabulous Kangaroos. At number 2, it's Tiger Jeet Singh and Yusuf Ismail at number 1. We want to know your top 5 foreign heels. Drop it in the comments below and let us know. This was a lot of fun, John. I love when we get to bounce around and have some different topics, and we certainly got that today with Ask JBL Anything. Yep. Drop us some comments. Drop us some questions in the comments below. Maybe we'll have a chance to do more of these before the end of the year. John, I don't want to spill the beans, but you and I have been working on a pretty big idea that I'm pretty excited about. I think we're going to start piloting that here in the next couple of weeks. I don't know that we want to give a tease yet, but I also see that you're actually taking this training pretty seriously. We've heard about the tackling dummies. Now we're seeing footage of it. Yep. We'll get to the bottom of what was real and what was AI in the coming weeks with Briscoe and Malenko. But this has been a lot of fun, man. We're getting close to WrestleCade. You've already announced that you're going to be there. I think a whole host of wrestlers are going to be there. It's like a who's who. So if you find yourself in the Winston-Salem area the day after Thanksgiving, or the Saturday after Thanksgiving, or the Sunday after Thanksgiving, join us all at WrestleCade. Tickets are on sale now at WrestleCade.com. This was a lot of fun today, John. Any final words you want to leave us with as we wrap up this episode?
There is, and I want to shout out to SoCal Val, who left the message. I just saw it on social media, and she asked a question about what was in the limo as far as snacks and drinks. And as far as I know, nothing. And she also asked if Amy Weber is no longer the personal assistant. Is there a spot open? I love SoCal Val. You are always welcome. I'll tell you this a million times. You're always welcome with me, JBL or John Layfield, whatever. I think SoCal. She's incredibly talented person, but I wanted to give a big shout out. But also with the training, I got derailed last year because of things that were out of my control. Some company getting bought, a creative person that was probably shouldn't have been there. And I got it figured out I'm not going to get derailed this year. So it's I got a plan, and hopefully that not hopefully you're going to see that plan work out in the next several months. I think it's going to be very entertaining, and we do have a hell of an idea, Conrad. I think this could change don't know about change podcasting. People always say, oh, it's going to change the business. I don't know. No, business ain't going to be changed, but it can be very entertaining.
Stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of fun in the coming days. But in the meantime, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications bell, and we'll see you next week right here on Something to Wrestle with John Layfield. I'm sorry, John Layfield. There we go. That's better. All right, real quick, I want to remind everybody, especially this time of year, did you know at SaveWithConrad.com you can skip your next 2 house payments? That's right. You'll get a cheaper monthly payment and no payments until next year. How about a little Christmas vacation from house payments? That's right. No payments in November or December at SaveWithConrad.com.